Welcome to Action Island, presented by FanDuel. I'm Maria Marino, and the crew is with me, Sean Little, Gilles Gallant, and Joe Delera. We're going to be building a same-game parlay for Timberwolves Nuggets Game 6. The way it works, each of the guys will give their two best bets, and then the Island Council will make a vote as we go leg by leg, building our SGP. But before we do that, I want to talk about this series for just a second because it's been pretty crazy. Gilles, I'll go to you first here. What was more surprising? Wolves taking first two games in Denver, or the Nuggets then turning around and winning three straight?
I would probably say the former over the latter, just because of how effective Denver was at home. They didn't drop a game at home in last year's playoff run. And even up until that point, we're looking pretty strong. So the fact they were dropping but both home games to start off the series, I think that to me is the bigger shocker than Denver winning three straight.
Well, Joe, I mean, despite the order in which these occurred, are you surprised at, hey, Denver is in the lead here in this series?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, if you told me that this series is going to be 3-2 Denver heading into game 6, that would be a pretty standard or expected outcome to me. I think, like you said, the order in which those games kind of came and the way in which they happened was a bit surprising. But at the end of the day, I think that Denver was the best team in the West, maintains and still is the best team in the West. So them being ahead heading into game 6 is not really a big surprise to me at this point.
Well, we'll get into how we expect some things to go tonight. But Sean, I just got to shout you out because early in this series, you told everybody, calm down. let's just calm down when it comes to, the MJ comparisons with Anthony Edwards. And at least he's looking a little more human of late.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he's still 22 years old. He is a young guy. But yeah, the comparisons to the only two options we had, Maria, were either he's Michael Jordan or Kobe. Nobody else. Those are the only two guys we could compare him to. I think overall, really quickly for the series, the game 2 was so jarring because Rudy Gobert was off the floor and they still ran them off the floor. That was the big thing. It's like, wait a minute, Rudy's off and they're still smashing the Nuggets on the road. That's when the narrative really got out of control. You could have got the Nuggets to win the West after game 2 plus 700. That number is long gone. Winning that game the way they did without Rudy Gobert made the narrative shift quite a bit. And the one thing other people aren't talking about as well is the 3 days off in a row really changed this series. It let Denver recoup, reevaluate how they want to attack this team. That was the difference in this series.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you making all of us feel better because we are all thinking oh no, maybe Denver's done. Obviously not the case. We're going to get our best bets in just a moment, but do want to remind everybody, Action Island is presented by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel Sportsbook today and get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet $5 for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. New users in North Carolina will receive $200 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21+ gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay. Time to get into our best bets for T-Wolves, Nuggets, and Sean Little, you are up first.
Yeah, I'm going right back to baby Jordan, Ant-Man, over 29.5 points. Now, our guy, Matt Moore, wrote an awesome article about how Denver is essentially trying to shut off the water on Anthony Edwards, ABA, anybody but Ant-Man. Well, I think in this game, back at home for game 6, this is going to be all about Ant-Man for Minnesota. He's going to get a ton of shots up. In game 5, Cat had 19 attempts, and Anthony Edwards only had 15. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 12 attempts, only 3 less than Anthony Edwards. That's not going to be the case tonight. We saw this point prop open up at 28.5. I saw it as low as 27.5 in some spots. Then we saw it today touch 30.5. It settled at 29.5. Earlier in this series as well, this number was 25.5 in some games. I expect There's a lot of steam coming in on Anthony Edwards over points. I expect him to have a big evening. His usage rate in the playoffs is 29.6. I expect that number to be in the mid-30s in this game. Cat is going to take the seat back, or the step back, I should say. I like Ant-Man to have a really big night, 30-plus here for the man, Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's do or die. And is Ant going to allow his team to go down without him going down swinging?
Right.
I'm not sure the answer is yes. So what's your second best bet?
Yeah, second play, I'm going to go to a rebounding prop. I'm going to go to Rudy Gobert over 12.5 boards plus 106 at FanDuel Sportsbook. We mentioned this and we talked about it a bunch. This, no joke, has been the hardest game for me to handicap the entire NBA season and NBA playoffs. These are razor thin margins here, but I do believe that Rudy Gobert will hit the glass. It's been a spot that Jokic has been a little less consistent. He's had 8 rebounds or less in 3 of the last 5 games. And when Gobert has played 35 plus minutes, and he only didn't play 35 plus in that blowout, he's averaging 12.6 rebounds when he plays 35 plus. I expect him to play big minutes tonight. Hopefully he can slow down Jokic just a touch, pick up a few offensive boards as well. We can go over this 12.5 point number.
I would think that Gobert is going to be on a mission tonight after, everything that transpired in the last game and just really give you an inspired effort. But that being said, we have our 2 options from Sean. Let's put it to a vote. All right, Jill and Joe, let's show the votes. Okay, then. We got some animations there. I'll just say this. I'm the odd person out here. I voted for Ant, and it's really just like what I said before, Sean. I just feel like Anthony Edwards, even though the defense was forcing him to pass, I think he's going to be a lot more deliberate with just taking it into his own hands and being like, I'm going for it no matter what happens. I'd rather like live and die by me than like other people. But let's go to Joe, because you also had the French fry drawing on there. Why did you like this Gobert pick?
I mean, it's pretty easy to convince me to bet on Rudy Gobert. Everybody knows, like, I love laddering his rebounds, right? But I think that when we look at what they're doing schematically on the defensive end against the Nuggets, they're not putting Gobert on Jokic. They're trying not to, right? And they're using him a little bit more as a floater. They're not putting Cat. They're usually putting Cat on Jokic or trying to double Jokic, and that's opened up a lot of rebounding opportunities for Rudy. So I think that Sean's angle is strong on the Gobert rebounds, and I definitely like that angle.
Very nice. Okay, one leg down. Let's go to Gilles Gallant for our second leg, but you need to give us your 2 options so we can vote.
All right. So, Sean, I agree with almost everything you said about Anthony Edwards. The only reason I actually voted for Gobert was just because it was better odds. So for me, I was a little greedy there. Just wanted a little bit of a better of a parlay. But that being said, you made a great case for Anthony Edwards points, which is exactly why I like his over 2.5 3-pointers at -130, because here we are in a now or never spot for the Timberwolves, and I'm going to bank on their best player because Edwards has hit this in both home games in the series, 3 of 4 home games overall. In fact, he's played 9 home playoff games in his career. He's actually hit this in 8 of them. He averages 3.3 point makes per playoff game in his career. And the point line is at 29.5, the highest of any player in the game. Him and Jokic both have point lines. The other thing, too, is talking about going down swinging. Like when he puts up 20 or more shot attempts, he generally clears this. So he's played 20 playoff games. He's shot the ball 20 or more times, and 12 of them, well, he went over this in 11 of those games. So when he's shooting the ball, more than likely he's going to get a couple 3-point attempts up there as well. I'm going to bank on him hitting at least 3 of them tonight in a do or die game for Baby Jordan, I guess, at -120, -130, give or take. Now, the other bet that I like, though, same thing. I feel like a little bit of a coward not taking the money line here, but because it is a parlay, we will do the points. So I'm going to take Nuggets plus 2.5 because I still think that the wrong team is favored here. Like I get that the spread has to be T-Wolves in this spot because teams at home, an elimination game. But this is a tale of two teams right now. Like, I know Mike Conley is back for tonight, but he's old. He's got a calf injury. Toradol is a hell of a drug, but I doubt that it's going to stop him from being a defensive liability. And then you've got Karl Anthony Towns. He was a bit hobbled in game 5. And he's going to have at least 2, maybe even 3 dumb fouls that are going to make him have to sit for prolonged periods of the game. And what we've seen over the last 3 games is a Nuggets domination on the offensive side. And that's going against the number 1 rated defense in the NBA. So I also wanted to give a shout out to Chris Baker in our best bets today on Action Network about how Denver in the half court is averaging 116.5 points per 100 possessions in the half court over their past 3 games. That's almost 10 points more than, say, Boston, who was favored to win the title. So I love the Nuggets to win this game, but Nuggets plus 2.5 is what we're going to do because of the parlay. I want to make sure to have a little bit of safety with those 2 points.
You're not a coward, Jill. It's fine. Taking the points, it's fine. I'm just going to say that I'm excited because this is our first indicator here that we have a side that we might be leaning towards. So I'm curious what everybody else thinks, but let's put it to a vote between Jill's 2 bets to get the second leg of our parlay. All right, let's show it. All right, I see a picture of Ant.
A little bit.
I know, I see the picture. I see it. So you and I are on the same page. Again, Sean, going with Ant Edwards. And I'll just say this, part of me also just wants to see Anthony Edwards do really well, but I think you pretty much laid out why you like him to have just a big scoring night overall. So therefore, I'm going to swing it over to Joe. Why Nuggets plus 2.5?
To me, honestly, it feels like what Jill said, that the Nuggets have kind of figured out the Timberwolves. They, outside of, the first 2 games of the series, they really came out flat. And right now, I don't know if Minnesota necessarily has not only a defensive answer for what Denver's trying to do, but I don't know if they can put up and generate enough points on offense. Conley's coming back. Not totally sure what level of health he's at, right? And I know that should help out Ant to a degree in trying to open him up. I know that Sean talked about the anybody but Ant type of defense, like the boxes and elbows. But I think that Jill's 3-point prop I kind of like better than the points anyway. But either way, I think that Denver might be able to take this home. I think they want to end this series now and be prepared for to host the next round of the playoffs, potentially.
Look, I could totally see this happening. I just haven't wrapped my head around yet, the idea of Minnesota losing 4 in a row. So I can't quite get over that yet. But nonetheless, we have leg 2 of our parlay, which is the Anthony Edwards over on his 3-point props. So, Joe, you are the last one for our same game parlay. You got to provide a couple of options for us to vote on. What are your best bets?
So my first bet that I'm looking at is Christian Brown over 9.5 points plus rebounds. We're kind of bouncing around between 9.5, 10.5. I don't care. I think this should be 14.5, 15.5, to be honest with you. When he's played 20 plus minutes this season, he's exceeded this line, the 9.5 in 74% of games and the 10.5 in 67% of games when he's played 20 plus minutes. And he's averaging 14.1 points plus rebounds. Over the last 2 games, he's played 25 and 28 minutes. And the biggest thing here is if he's playing 25, this jumps to almost a 90% hit rate, right? With an average of 16.4 points plus rebounds. The biggest thing is that he's closing these games over Michael Porter Jr. His defensive versatility has been incredible. They're putting him on Ant and his quickness, whatever, that's all been super, super impactful. But his energy and his motor is really high. And for the scoring and for the rebounds, that's something that you need. And even though he's not the most skilled scorer, he can still shoot the 3, but his activity on the offensive side is something that Jokic is always really able to take advantage of with him as an excellent, excellent cutter, both normally and through the back door. So I like him to go over the 9.5 or 10.5 points plus rebounds. For my second play, we're looking at Jokic over 38.5 points plus assists. So he's gone over this in back-to-back games, and he's 3 for 4 this series when Gobert has been playing. And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the biggest thing for me when I'm watching what Denver's able to do, and it's nothing against Gobert. Gobert is an excellent defensive player. I think that he was the rightful defensive player of the year this season. But what Jokic does is he just breaks defenses. And because of the style of defense that they're playing on him, he's able to score, he's able to assist. The biggest change this series has been because of Jamal Murray's like little bit of an injury. Jokic and Gordon have been the ones taking the ball up the court. They're having the ball way more in their hands, especially Jokic, and he's getting cat on him. He's putting Gobert in space, and he's able to score, whether it's floaters for himself. Sometimes he's pulling up and taking threes, but he's also able to get all those teammates cutting to the basket as the Minnesota defense kind of breaks down as they get drawn out further away from the hoop. So I like Jokic to go over 38.5 points plus assists.
Oh man, another couple of great options here from Joe Delera, but guys, we got to pick one, so let's put it to a vote. All right, guys, what do we got? Oh man.
What can Brown do for
good,
you?
Sean. That's
oh,
good.
Wow. Okay. So Sean, just because of that pun, I gotta go to you. I gotta go to you first. Why do you like Brown here?
Yeah, Delera and I have talked about this quite a bit, actually, about how impactful Brown has been for the Nuggets. Just that, I mean, he's closing games out for the defending champions now. He's been super impactful. He's been running the floor. He plays defense. He's a very important piece of this Denver Nuggets team whose bench was already extremely thin. He has been an integral part. I think he just starts to get more and more minutes. He builds more and more confidence, and he's been impacting the game quite a bit. As Delera said, I don't care if it's 10.5. I think this number is flat out mispriced. Brown is going to have a big impact on this game.
Yeah, that number does look favorable, right? It feels like it's totally attainable. And Jill, I feel like this is one of Joe Delera's like favorite props ever. Like he's all about it. But I do think something changed in the series as well, with Brown playing a more significant role, and like just that role has developed as the series has gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two reasons that you want to take it, one is Joe has made it very clear that this is his favorite bet of the postseason, so you don't really want to ignore that factor. But also with Jokic, a lot of those assists it's directly correlated where a lot of those assists are actually probably going to go to Brown. So I think if anything with the 38.5, it's not to say that Jokic can't, but you're almost asking Nikola Jokic to have another ceiling performance, which he can do. Whereas Brown, this is actually probably a little bit lower than where it needs to be, considering that Joe has expected around like 14.5 for this line. So I feel like we're getting much more of an edge on Brown as opposed to Jokic, whereas you're asking Jokic to kind of just do Jokic things, whereas Christian Brown, you're seeing now in the second half, he's getting minutes over MPJ. He's getting those closing minutes. He's showing that energy. So I feel like 3 transition baskets and a couple rebounds, and we're sitting pretty here right now.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And just to clarify, I really like both. I just decided to go the other way and go Jokic because I feel like he has identified exactly what he needs to do, and he's just so good at picking people apart. So I could see either happening. But that being said, the council has spoken, and we have our third leg of the same game parlay. So to recap, this is what we got. Leg 1, Gobert over on his rebounding prop per Sean. Leg 2, Anthony Edwards to go over on his threes prop. And that's by Gilles, by the way. And then Brown over the points and rebounds total, courtesy of Joe Delera. And we are seeing odds right now, if you want to play this, at around plus 519. Not too bad. And it's that time of the show where I give a little bonus bet. So here we go. Jamal Murray, I like him to go under on his points prop. I'm seeing it at 19.5. He's only cleared that once out of the 5 games played this series. And We've talked about how much the series turned with that 3+ day break between game 2 and game 3. The 24 points that he had in game 3, that was after those 3 full days off. And I also just think that a Denver win is not dependent on him scoring 20. So I'm kind of comfortable whichever way we think this game is going to go with either outcome. I could see him going under this. And one other note, his points prop has actually gone under in 8 of his last 10 games. So maybe the books aren't fully accounting for the injury that he experienced. I mean, he's been injured for some time, but he aggravated the injury further late in that Lakers series. So with yet again, just the 1 day in between games, I'm okay with this at under 19.5. Now, when I posed this in our group chat, Joe Delara, you were the only one to react, so I'm going to you here. And you're not going to talk me off of it.
No, I do like the angle. I think it's a sharp angle. When we look at what Minnesota's been able to do defensively, like there's just no relief for Jamal Murray. They're throwing Nickeil Alexander-Walker at him. They're throwing Jaden McDaniels at him. They're throwing even Anthony Edwards at him. It has been a nightmare for him. And like I said before, when I talked about the Jokic prop, Denver has literally had to change their entire offense because Jamal Murray was having so much difficulty getting the ball up the floor. I know that he can be used a little bit more like off of screens, that type of thing. Last game, he didn't even take a 3. No threes, 0. So to getting him to this 20-point threshold, I think is tough. He can impact the game in other ways without necessarily scoring 25 points a game. Some series he needs that. This series, this is really not a Jamal Murray series. So I do like the under 19.5 points on Jamal Murray.
Well, thank you for that. I do agree that he doesn't have to be the best player on the floor, right? And that's exactly what you've been seeing more often than not in this series. But as we know, as we've discussed, the series has been a little wild. Definitely curious to see if this goes 7, if this goes the distance. But until then, this has been Action Island presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Never want to leave the island. But for Sean Little, Gilles Gallant, and Joe Delara, once again, I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the game tonight.